You've been dreaming about your Euro summer for months, maybe years. Aperol spritzes in golden hour sunlight, piazza strolls before dinner, finally laying your eyes on the Duomo in Florence. And while all of that is absolutely waiting for you, so is a 3-hour line to your favorite attraction, a €500 fine for something you had no idea was illegal, and a restaurant bill where you get completely hosed because you clicked the wrong button. Unless you're prepared. I've spent over a decade traveling extensively throughout Europe, and most people think what makes a great summer Europe trip is all about where you go, but it's actually more about what mistakes you avoid. So in this video, I'm gonna share 10 tips that will save your dream European summer vacation from becoming an expensive, exhausting nightmare. But first, anytime I make a video with the word Europe in the title, at least a handful of people show up with their metaphorical pitchforks to remind me of this. Europe isn't one place like Disney World. It's a continent made up of more than 40 countries and tons of distinct regions with vastly different customs and norms. And of course, they're right, which leads me to my very first point. Know the rules. Not understanding the rules of the destination you're headed to, from entry requirements to general tourist need-to-knows. You gotta do your upfront research. For example, there have been a few very recent changes in entry requirements across Europe. In 2025, the UK rolled out the ETA, their electronic travel authorization, which needs to be completed and approved ahead of arrival. The EU has their entry-exit system. It's rolling out now. ETIAS is something different, and it's coming online supposedly later. These things are not optional, and showing up without them can potentially cost you your entire trip. The same goes for your passport. Most of Europe requires at least 6 months of validity beyond your travel dates. Pull your passport out right now and check the expiration. The closer we get to peak travel season, typically that's going to result in longer wait times for passport renewals. And once you're at your destination, every country, sometimes every city, has its own little rules that can cost you. Venice will fine you up to €500 for feeding pigeons in St. Mark's Square. Rome fines you for sitting on the Spanish Steps. Many European trains require you to physically validate your paper ticket before boarding. Ride without validating, and that could result in a fine. Ask me how I know that one. This isn't intended to scare you. These examples just highlight the need to be informed. Cities usually ramp up enforcement in the summer, so the rules get applied more strictly. Spend a few minutes Googling the rules for the specific place you're going to help save you the headache of dealing with any rules-related issues later. Next, if you're traveling during the summer, your itinerary needs to be more planned out than if you were just traveling during shoulder season. Don't think you can arrive at some major tourist destinations in July and just wing it. You're gonna miss out on must-see attractions and waste precious time in line. Ultimately, you're gonna leave yourself open to disappointment. The big attractions, things like the Colosseum, the Sagrada Familia, Anne Frank House, the Sistine Chapel, these are not walk-up visits, really, at any point in the year. Most of these require timed entry tickets that book out weeks and sometimes months in advance. Did we take a trip to Milan? Yes. Did we get to see The Last Supper? No, we didn't book in advance. So as soon as you book your trip, sit down and make a list of every must-see for the city, the things that are non-negotiable for you, and then go book the tickets. Today, if you can, not next week. If tickets haven't opened up yet, you can set a calendar reminder on the day they become available. Or if you're into AI, you could even take an AI agent and have it do routine checks for when the tickets are available. If something is already sold out, you could also check Viator or Get Your Guide. They often have guided tour slots when direct tickets are gone. Not a guarantee, but it's worked out for us in the past. Also, double check operating hours through official sources. Don't just blindly trust whatever you see from AI, and actually don't fully trust Google Maps either because their hours are crowdsourced. Many European attractions close on Mondays or have weird Sunday hours. So if it's a museum, check their actual website. Make restaurant reservations for the spots that you really want to hit. Every place worth eating is going to ask you if you have a reservation, and if they're booked out, you don't want to have to scramble and potentially wind up with a mediocre dinner. You're also going to want to know your transportation plans in advance. Know what public transportation options are available, especially how you're getting from the airport to your accommodations when you initially land. Public transit, taxi, rideshare, whatever the options are, just know what's available to you. If you plan to rent a car, I would book way ahead. Remember, you're traveling at a time when everyone else is too. Things are crowded, space is limited, and to ensure that you have the trip you envisioned, you need to prepare and plan ahead. In fact, for a lot of you, that planning part is actually the fun part, and that brings me to today's sponsor, Fora. If you genuinely love the research, the comparison of hotels, the hunt for the impossible reservation, if you're the friend everyone asks before booking a trip, you've got the instincts of a travel advisor, but you're just not getting paid for it. And that's where Fora comes in. Fora is a modern travel agency built for people who love to plan travel and help others travel as well. As a Fora advisor, you get professional booking tech, real training, and a community of experts to learn from. You also get access to over 7,000 travel partners, which unlocks real VIP perks for your clients, room upgrades, resort credits, late checkout, stuff regular bookings don't get. And every hotel, cruise, or activity you book earns a commission. So those trips that you'd be planning anyway can become a real source of income. If that sounds like your kind of work, become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/YouTube. Click the link in the description below to learn more and become a Fora advisor. Now, even with a perfect plan, summer in Europe is gonna throw you a curveball no matter the destination. Your job is to know they're coming so they don't blindside you. A few examples: strikes, especially in France, Italy, and the UK. Airline strikes, train strikes, transit strikes. These strikes are frequent and they tend to cluster in summer. Follow your destination's local news in the week leading up to your trip to help stay informed. Construction. Both Paris and Rome have been doing major metro work, and it's planned to go on through this summer on lines that you'd actually want to use. And buckle up, every famous monument in Europe seems to have a 50-50 chance of being half covered in scaffolding when you get there. Kind of joking, kind of not. There's nothing you could do about that, of course, but you should at least kind of set your expectations and know going in. Major events can cause chaos: soccer matches, popular marathons, music festivals, the Pope doing literally anything. Any one of these can take a city you were excited about and turn it into a logistics nightmare. Check the calendar before you book. Recently, EES delays have caused a ton of disruption. The new EU entry-exit system is slowing things down at borders. Build extra time into your arrivals. At the time of this video, there have been recent airline cancellations across Europe due to fuel shortages. You won't be able to plan around all of this, but knowing it might happen means when it does, you don't lose half a day in panic mode. Now, I get if this is your first trip to Europe or you don't visit Europe a ton, you want to go to London, Paris, Rome, Barcelona, the hits, and you should. But my advice is don't try to do all of them in one trip. Pick a region and go deep. The classic mistake is trying to hit 5 cities in 10 days, spending half of your trip dragging luggage through train stations and dealing with crowds the entire time. You won't regret fewer destinations and being able to go deeper. We've talked about slower trips before, but even more in the summer because these marquee cities are at their most crowded. 3 days in Rome in July is a different beast than 3 days in Rome in November. Look for lesser visited second cities in the country or region you're headed. For example, if you're going to Spain, a place like Valencia is large enough to have great city amenities, but it's less of a chaotic tourist destination. The same goes for Ghent and Antwerp in Belgium, Porto in Portugal. These are the places that you're more likely to be able to get a table for dinner and not be in shoulder-to-shoulder crowds and where you can actually breathe. If anything, simply adding a second city or places like these as additional stops in your itinerary can give you and your budget a rest versus packing your trip with 3+ crowded A-list stops. And bonus, they're all great places to visit. If you are going to the marquee cities, and you should, they're famous for a reason, you gotta be smart about timing. For major attractions, try booking the very first entry of the day or one of the last entry slots. The middle of the day is brutally busy. Tour groups, cruise ship passengers, the entire population of your hometown, apparently, all crammed into the same hallway. Skip the line tickets are almost always worth the extra few bucks, so if it's an option, I would spring for it. And for the really iconic stuff like the Vatican Museum, for example, a private or small group tour can be very, very worthwhile. You're paying for access, but also expertise and the ability to skip past the chaos. Not cheap, but for a once-in-a-lifetime visit, it's money well spent. One of my favorites is the Doge's Palace Secret Tours in Venice. I've done that tour multiple times and it has always been worth the extra money. 2 or 3 big attraction days in a row can be exhausting. I mean, crowd fatigue is a real thing. Plan for slower afternoons, maybe a completely unplanned day in your itinerary. Just sit, eat some gelato, watch the world go by. That's the trip that you're gonna want to remember, not being elbow to elbow with other tourists all day, every day. Hey, if you've gotten value out of this video so far, please hit that like button. And if you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe because there is way more where this came from. You can experience much of Europe now without cash, but you will still want to do a bit of research on your exact destination's preferences and have a money plan because without one, you could end up paying hundreds extra unnecessarily. Regardless, carry 2 credit cards on different networks. Amex is not accepted everywhere, and opt for cards with no foreign transaction fees. You'll also want a debit card with no foreign ATM fees, like the Charles Schwab card, so you can get cash out of an ATM if you need or want. Always pay in the local currency. If a card reader asks you, would you like to pay in USD or Euro? Pick Euro every time. The conversion they offer you is terrible. Avoid freestanding ATMs like this one if you can help it. Their rates and fees tend to be highway robbery. If you need an ATM, find an ATM that's attached to an actual bank. One more regarding restaurants. Look up the tipping culture of the destination you're headed to, as it's not always the standard 20% like it is in the US. Splitting checks is also not that common in a lot of places, which honestly makes things easier anyways. One person pays, everyone Venmos them after. Also, avoid restaurants in tourist areas with gigantic picture menus in multiple languages. These restaurants are charging you double for food that is likely not even that good. Where there are crowds, there are scams. Summer in these A-list European cities is the Super Bowl for scammers. The classics. Someone hands you a free bracelet or rosemary sprig and won't take it back unless you pay. Someone shoves a clipboard in your face asking you to sign a petition while their accomplice picks your pocket. Street performers who lure you in for a photo and then aggressively demand 20 euro. Be skeptical of free tour offers handed to you in the street, official ticket sellers outside major attractions who aren't actually official, and any taxi at the airport that doesn't have a meter or who won't quote a fixed price up front. Pickpockets are a real thing in places like metros and crowded tourist areas. Just be aware, put stuff in front pockets, zip your bags, be aware. And the flip side is don't make yourself a target. Flashy jewelry, big designer logos, expensive cameras swinging around your neck. You're announcing yourself as a tourist with money. Dress simple. And by the way, don't stress about blending in with locals because you won't. Nobody thinks you're Italian, okay? Just don't broadcast your wealth and your ignorance. Big suitcases are a nightmare in general, but especially during the crowded summer months. Cobblestone streets, stairs everywhere, old buildings with no elevators, crowded trains where you can't get your bag in the rack. Lugging your suitcase around can also become a workout, okay? Opting for a smaller carry-on can at least alleviate some of this burden. Most hotels and Airbnbs don't let you check in until 3 or 4 p.m. And if you arrive in the morning, you're gonna wanna find luggage storage services so you don't have to manage your bags for hours. We've done carry-on only for almost every Europe trip we've ever done, and I've never once regretted it. We've got a free carry-on packing list and plenty of videos outlining how to do this. We'll link those in the description down below. Also, depending on where you're going, it could be extremely hot, so pack accordingly. Light, moisture-wicking fabrics and breathable layers are your best friend. Comfortable walking shoes that you've already broken in, okay? Your first day is not the day to test your new sneakers. A lot of the friction first-time travelers feel in Europe isn't about the place, it's about expectations. Cultural differences, especially unexpected ones, can take you by surprise and sometimes cause discomfort. And look, by late August, the locals in Barcelona, Florence, Amsterdam, you name it, have been dealing with tourists for 3 solid months. Their patience is thin, understandably so. Some cities have launched literal anti-tourist campaigns, which means the cultural friction that you may feel, it's gonna hit harder in summer than any other time of year. Knowing the basics goes a long way toward not being the tourist locals dread. Dinner is sometimes later. Don't show up to a restaurant at Spain at 6 p.m. expecting to eat. They're not even open yet. 8, 9, 10 p.m. is the normal. The check doesn't come until you ask for it in a lot of places. In many countries, bringing the check unprompted is considered rude. They don't want to rush you like the table-turning nature of US restaurants. Honestly, I kind of love that. It bothers me how much servers in the US are pestering, like, can I get you anything else? 90 seconds later, hey, everybody still doing okay? When you're at a restaurant, just make eye contact and ask. You can sit at a table for hours and nobody is gonna hassle you. Drinking culture is also different. Getting visibly drunk in public can be heavily frowned upon. Amsterdam in particular has launched whole campaigns telling rowdy tourists to stay home. There's obviously much more than this, but you get the gist. Be respectful and act like a guest in someone else's home. Be on your best behavior. People live here. This is not an amusement park. Modern travel is way easier with the right tools, and one of the greatest tools you have is your phone. Know how you plan to have service before you land. We always suggest getting an eSIM before you fly. A VPN is incredibly useful for travel. It keeps your bank from flagging foreign logins, it lets you access your home streaming services, and it adds security on sketchy hotel Wi-Fi. Before you leave for your trip, download offline Google Maps for every city you're visiting before you leave. Download the local language in Google Translate. Image translation for menus is one of the best travel tools ever invented. Also, turn on accessibility mode in Google Maps for walking if you have mobility issues or you just want to avoid routes with stairs or hills. Use your calculator's currency converter so you actually know what things cost. A few apps that should definitely earn their place in your phone. First of all, TripIt for organizing your itinerary. Of course, your airlines app, your hotels app, and the preferred local rideshare app. Uber and Lyft aren't the main one everywhere. For example, apps like Bolt are very common throughout Europe. And one more. If you're standing in line for tickets at a major attraction, take out your phone and check if you can book online for the next entry slot. Half the time you can. Stop just standing in line. Look, Europe this summer is going to be hot. It's going to be crowded, and it might be expensive for you. That's the deal. You're not dodging that entirely. What you can dodge is the avoidable stuff. Manage your expectations going in. Remember, you're a guest in someone else's home, and you're going to have a fantastic trip. If you want destination ideas that are still incredible but a little less crowded, check out this video on 9 underrated European cities right here. Thanks so much for watching. Happy travels.